If you have never heard of the mystic psychologist known as Carl Gustav Jung, in this episode I have a fantastic treat for you, because by the end of this episode we are going to go over his top contributions to the field of psychology, and these ideas can help you individuate yourself and remove a substantial amount of cognitive dissonance within your mind. Absolutely fantastic. Please stay to the end. Carl Jung was a Swiss psychiatrist and psychoanalyst who lived from 1875 to 1961. He is known for his contributions to the field of psychology, particularly in the areas of the unconscious mind, dream analysis, and personality types. Jung developed the concept of the collective unconscious, explored archetypes and the influence on human behavior, and emphasized the importance of individuation, the process of achieving psychological wholeness and self-realization. We hear a lot about self-realization or self-actualization in regular psych courses, and self-actualization is the goal of the Conscienticon. In my own words, it is the removal of cognitive dissonance from your system, from your decision-making processes. Cognitive dissonance is that feeling that you get when you're not sure who you are, or where you're going, or what's going on. We're trying to remove this and leave the mystery and the wonder on the edge of our perception as we go forward boldly in life. Jung is going to help contribute to our journey of self-individuation today by understanding his concepts of archetypes. Archetypes can be thought of as mental structures or patterns that exist within the collective unconscious. They are pre-existing universal templates that shape and influence our thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. Archetypes provide a framework through which we interpret and make sense of the world around us. They can be seen as psychological blueprints or templates that influence our perceptions, our beliefs, and actions, often operating at an unconscious level. These mental structures play a significant role in shaping our personalities, motivations, and the narratives we construct about ourselves and others. So while so many people were fixated on the conscious mind being all there is, with this illusion that people walk through the world with, thinking that they're completely in control, Jung started to break down this illusion, allowed people to be aware of just how many lower processes that we are not consciously aware of are operating in the backgrounds of our mind. And not only that, through his study of different cultures, he found that we have archetypical motifs that go across culture to culture to culture that are shared. So how are these ideas exchanged? So the idea is that they weren't exchanged, that these ideas, these concepts, archetypical concepts like dragons and wise old men and caring mothers, these things were archetypical. They were part of the collective unconscious. You could almost call them collective shared schemas, and schemas are patterns of thought. So the big mystical mystery was, why do all these cultures share the same archetypical ideas, which gave birth to the concept of the collective unconscious. Now, understanding your own unconscious, we assume because it is part of the collective, we have archetypical thought patterns built into each one of us. And the patterns that I'm about to go over are within you and everyone else in the world so far as we know. So the idea is that upon meditation and introspection, you can have what would be a neural handshake with yourself, sub-tiers of your subconscious mind that grant you access to different types of thought patterns and different types of behaviors that can change depending on your circumstance. And these archetypes are within each and every one of us. So let's start with the very first archetype, the self. The self represents the totality of the psyche, the integration of all conscious and unconscious aspects of an individual. It signifies wholeness, unity, and the striving for self-realization. So the Godhead is that which knows all but knows not itself. Just as light does not illuminate itself and fire does not burn itself, we, the collective, will never truly know what we are, who we are, and this process is continual. So even as I sit here and I move my hands, I'm now consciously aware of my hands moving, but earlier I was not aware of this unconscious movement. This is an example of sub-tier routines of behaviors and sub-personalities within me cooperating together towards a unity or a self. So as we said here, as this collective of cells, we are a collective unity, and the whole unity is considered the self. And if you want to get real mystical, perhaps your self doesn't end at the end of your cells. Perhaps your self would be considered your environment and extensions beyond you, even other people around you. But in this case, I believe that Jung was talking about the collective self, our collective psyche in probably one brain, and how all these personalities work together or battle to get dominance over the psyche. Now we move on to his concept of the shadow. The shadow represents the hidden and repressed aspects of our personality, often containing qualities that we deem unacceptable or undesirable. It embodies our instincts, our fear, and our unresolved conflicts. If we take the principle of polarity from Hermeticism and understand that everything we see and experience, or all the behaviors that we have polarity, within this polarity there are the negatives, which are the calibration to the system. So the shadow is the calibration of your system, of yourself. It is the negative. And what it is it's a manifestation of all of the things in the world that you think are foul, things that you are afraid of. Your system records this, and all of these awful things get consolidated into one personality. And this personality is what takes over when you were overwhelmed by the pressures of life. This is why people snap and go crazy, and the shadow is released. The idea is that the shadow is that last defense mechanism. And not only that, because it is full of all the things you ought not do, it's a perfect thing to do when you are in trouble. So if you know that you can be harmed, you put that idea of harm into the shadow. And so then when you are in trouble, when you meet things that are like you and you know how to harm yourself, you also know how to harm that other thing. And so the shadow works in this way. It is a system that allows your conscious mind to balance itself out. When a person goes to integrate their shadow, when the conscious mind meets its own shadow, there is a psychic transformation that takes place, because a lot of people walk through the world thinking that they are incapable of doing evil. And these people are what we would call shadow repressed people. They think that they're incapable of doing evil. These people that think that they're incapable of doing evil have shadow parts of themselves leak out, and this causes harm to other people. And because they don't believe that they're capable of being evil, they justify this harm. When you understand that you are a being capable of doing awful things, and there are parts of you that desire to do this awful stuff, when you reconcile that, it allows you to keep that evil in check. And as long as you repress it, it will leak out in all sorts of strange ways. So now we move on to the Anima and the Animus. These archetypes represent the unconscious feminine qualities in males and the unconscious masculine qualities in females. They influence our relationships, our creativity, and emotional expression. So the idea is that because we have a principle of gender within the universe, this principle manifests itself within our psyche. And whenever you believe that you must behave like a man, there is a polarity, and that polarity is whatever you think is feminine. So whatever you think is feminine gets repressed into the shadow, which allows the masculine part of yourself to naturally go through its flow. And the reciprocal is possible as well. Now, this is just part of the human psyche. It has nothing to do with your physical gender. It has everything to do with your mental gender, what mental gender you think you are, or what type of energy you put out in the universe, be it a masculine, finite, pointed energy, or a whole, loving, embracing, feminine energy. Whichever energy you project forward, the opposite is repressed. So in men, the idea is that there's an anima, and you can remember this because it's anima, like ma, like mother, or animus. And in my head, I think of a moose with giant antlers being the more masculine version of the psyche. So the anima is the repressed female qualities in a masculine mind, and the animus is the repressed male qualities within a female mind. So the anima is repressed feminine qualities within the male mind, and the animus is repressed male qualities within the female mind. When one is integrating their psyche and going towards self-realization, they must meet with this other part of themselves. So if you're hypermasculine, you must meet your anima, which is your feminine side, and get in touch with your feminine side, which allows you to be more creative and more loving and more flexible. And a lot of people are averse to this idea of being more feminine when they're trying to be polarized and masculine, because they think it's going to take away their power. But the truth is, it actually allows an expansion of creative energy. It actually allows you to quit running through life keeping parts of yourself repressed. And the same is true for the animus, for the feminine mind to have their masculine side repressed. Repressing the animus keeps you impotent and unable to effectively execute your will. So a lot of women go through the world thinking that they cannot impose their will on anything because that's not feminine. But the truth is, the masculine and the feminine are part of every single one of us, and all of us are in different types of balances with this energy. And it would be wonderful if we all had the choice of polarizing whichever way we wanted to. The next archetype is the persona. The persona refers to the mask or social role we adopt to fit into society. It is the public face we present to the world, often concealing our true selves. The persona allows us to interact with others and adapt to social norms. The persona is exactly that. When you are in a social situation and you feel like you must behave, this needing to behave is this idea of the social pressure around you, this conformity, and it forces you to compress parts of your psyche that wish to be expressed but are not appropriate to be expressed at that time. And so we develop something called the persona. So the persona is that fakeness. And a lot of people develop a persona so much that they don't even know who they are anymore. They may be in a situation where they think they must behave in a certain way so long that when they're outside of social context, they don't even know how to behave at all. They don't know who they are because they're so used to having to please other people around them. And these people can be a little bit, not necessarily cringy, but a little bit uncomfortable to be around, because once other people get a sense that this person is fake, they get afraid, because instinctually we understand how big that shadow is behind that mask. We know how evil these people are going to be later, and then justify it to protect the persona. This can be trouble. So we want to understand what our persona is and keep it in check, because there are situations where we must behave, we must be courteous, and we must do things against our instinct. But this ability is part of what makes us human. This ability to work with other people in harmony is a wonderful thing. The next archetype is the wise old man. This archetype symbolizes wisdom, knowledge, and guidance. It represents the collective wisdom accumulated throughout history and can manifest as a mentor, a sage, or a spiritual figure. So this archetype is within everyone. Even though it is a wise old man, this is an ability that men and women have. These are roles that are necessary for creating a collective health amongst cultures, societies, tribes. This is what happens when you are in a situation where you have people that are maybe younger than you, less experienced than you, you get forced in a position where you have to be the wise old man or the wise elder. So back in the day when we were in tribes and we had a kid going out into the bush and he found a weird snake, he would have to come back and ask, hey, does anybody know what's up with this? And the village elder, the wise old man, would say, hey, that snake's got black and red on it, don't touch it. Or that snake has got black and yellow, don't touch it, or whatever. This is collective wisdom that's been transferred down, and it's wisdom because it has been earned. Somebody in the past ate those weird berries. Somebody in the past got bit by that snake and died. And the wisdom, this character is designed by whatever you want to say, the universe or by evolution or whatever. This character within all of us is designed to keep others safe and to empower people around us. Now we move on to the archetype of the hero. The hero archetype embodies courage, strength, and the journey of self-discovery. It represents the individual's quest for meaning, facing challenges, and overcoming obstacles to achieve personal growth and transformation. So there's a hero within every one of us. There is no such thing as reward without risk. We would call that luck, but I don't live a life based on luck personally. I calculate the risks I take and I move forward. And the thing is, there are drawbacks. And so you must embrace this archetypical figure within you, which is heroic. It is ready to roll with the punches and go forward because you are making a trade with the universe all the time. You are sacrificing your time for any direction you go in, your potential for any direction that you go in. You are sacrificing these things, and there's a journey. And within every journey or every story throughout all cultures, you have heroes that start in one place. In fact, in tarot, you have the Fool, and the Fool is literally about to walk right off of a cliff. But walking off this cliff is necessary for his inner transformation and his journey. So I'm not telling people to walk off a cliff here, but I am saying that you should all embrace your inner hero and start taking risks and being bold and be good and righteous. Next archetype is the mother. The mother archetype represents nurturing, compassion, and the life-giving aspect. It embodies qualities associated with motherhood such as unconditional love, protection, and nourishment. The mother, being a feminine figure, is within each of our psyches. We all have the capacity to be motherly, to be loving, to be caring, to take care of things around us, to give love and attention. One mantra I like to repeat is that love is attention. And that's the truth. A mother is a person who gives you the attention that you need so you can grow. It's almost as if all of us are little sprouting plants, and maybe we need a little water. Maybe we need a little sunlight. Maybe we need fertilizer for our soil to grow strong. And a mother is the person who does this. It's a motherly figure. This capacity for love and acceptance is within each of us. And no matter how polarized you may be in the masculine, there may be moments in your life where you have to take on the archetype of the mother. One of my favorite examples of this is an old movie called Enemy Mine. Within this movie, two races are fighting a galactic war. Within this movie, a soldier of one race and another race crash land and have to cooperate to survive. Well, now little does our hero know, his companion is actually pregnant, and when he has this child, he has to mother and father this child because he loves this child. And this is a very good example of the manifestation of the archetypical mother being present in a masculine figure. The final major archetype on our list here is the trickster. The trickster archetype represents mischief, playfulness, and unpredictability. It challenges conventional norms and expectations, often serving as a catalyst for change and transformation. Throughout history, we have had times where the restrictive nature of society or our government has been so tight that we have needed tricksters to go in and throw wrenches in the cogs. This idea, this archetype is manifested in able to allow us to express ourselves freely. The trickster is rebellious by nature. The more tyrannical a system becomes, the more trickster archetypes will become developed within people. This trickster is within you and within me. This is to liven up our experience. This is to show our freedom within ourselves so we can express our energies without restriction. Even in medieval courts, you would have jesters, and these jesters were there specifically to keep the king humble. They were there to allow the king to see a different perspective. So this trickster or this fool was allowed to say whatever he wanted, things that no one else could say. And this, despite whether the king wanted to hear it or not, this was because it was healthy to the psyche of the country or to the king to know the things that he doesn't want to know. And so the trickster manifests specifically to counteract an archetype that I would define as a ruler. Not only does it counterbalance rulers, but it counterbalances all tyrannical systems. It is the joy and the freedom and the chaos that is within each and every one of us. So before we go, I'd like to thank the patrons for supporting the Conscienticon. I appreciate you guys so very deeply, and thank you for being here with me along this journey. And I thank you for helping contribute to the Conscienticon. You guys are just as much of the Conscienticon as I am, and I look forward to having new people join and have new ideas expressed openly that can help people spread practical, spiritual, occult wisdom.